And there are a few answers tonight for older Queenslanders left in limbo by the budget. Seniors know cuts to concessions are coming, but don't know how bad they'll be, and worse still, won't find out until October.
Federal cuts to concessions felt like a kick in the guts to those who could least afford it.
It makes me cranky because pensioners are a soft target, aren't they?
It does make life more difficult for pensioners.
Tim Nichols revealing he can't cover the $50 million black hole left by Joe Hockey, meaning rebates and subsidies for electricity, rates, water, gas, rego and public transport will take a hit.
Pensioners will be hurting, and sadly we're going to see pensioners disconnecting or having to go to family members for help.
I'm very disappointed that they're targeting the pensioners again.
I think it's rough. There are a lot of people on the pension who have no other income at all.
But there were others lining up to sink the boot in.
This is a terrible budget for Queensland.
Unions are going to campaign strongly in the community to fight these changes to sell our public assets.
Nurses worried a 6.4% increase in health spending won't translate into jobs.
But they can't continue to do more with less.
Just over 1% increase to the operating budget for education is not going to be sufficient.
There were thumbs up from resources and industry, though business called for more detail.
CCIQ remains concerned about the lack of information that there is on what the impact will be on prices and services of asset privatisation.
While the master builders say a golden opportunity has been missed.
If the government tweaked the current arrangements on stamp duty, it would turbocharge the housing sector.
It will be a tough sell for the state government. They've already spent $6 million on the Strong Choices advertising campaign. It received a fresh $5.2 million today, 1.4 of which will be dished out over the next 3 weeks alone. Catherine Feeney, 9 News.
A short time ago, I spoke to Treasurer Tim Nichols about the budget. Treasurer, thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure, Andrew. Thank you for having me on.
Labor sold assets and found itself with 7 members at the last election. Could you be facing political oblivion?
Well, Andrew, last time around, Labor said one thing before an election and did another thing afterwards. This time around, we're being very upfront with Queenslanders. We have to deal with that $80 billion worth of debt. Do they want more taxes, fewer services, or are people prepared to consider the sale or lease of assets? We're being very upfront, very different from our predecessors.
You might be comfortable with it, but are you sure about Queenslanders?
Well, one of the things we found from the Strong Choices campaign was that 46% of people mostly chose the sale or lease of assets. Only 28% of people mostly chose increasing taxes, and an even smaller amount, only about 16% of people wanted to see cuts to services.
Okay.
We've got to...
OK, Treasurer, you say privatising the power generators gives people more ability to shop around, but can you give Queenslanders a guarantee tonight that they won't be paying more for electricity after the sell-off?
What we've seen over the past 5 or 6 years, Andrew, is that despite the fact of the generators and the power networks being in government ownership, power prices have continued to increase. If people want to see power prices go down, the simplest thing that could happen would be for the Labor Party to remove the carbon tax, agree with the federal government, and that would save people $120 tomorrow. The power price increase would only be 5%, not the 13.6% that's been locked in because of the carbon tax and the solar bonus scheme.
That doesn't sound like a guarantee for Queenslanders after the sell-off of power assets here.
Well, Andrew, what I can say is that once you open the market up to competition, you will see opportunities for people to save up to $400 or $500, as we've seen in Victoria, by shopping around, getting the best price.
All right.
That's the thing we need to look at.
Treasurer, good to talk. Thank you.
That's a pleasure, Andrew. Thank you very much.
And joining us now live is Opposition Leader Anastasia Palaszczuk. Good evening.
Good evening, Melissa.
It's a bit of a tricky one for you. How can you attack Tim Nichols' asset sales when you yourself supported them under Anna Bligh?
Oh, very clearly, Melissa, we were reduced to 7 people during the last election. But today what we've seen by this government is a budget of broken promises. Pensioners are hurting, cost of living's going up, we've got families out there hurting, electricity prices. People are now paying about $560 more than they did under Labor. So it's a budget that's actually hurting people, it's not helping people.
So if it wasn't asset sales, how would Labor pay down Queensland's debt?
I will be delivering my budget reply on Thursday, but what we've seen from this government is broken promises, and what we'll be focusing on is jobs, not asset sales. I've travelled around the length and breadth of this state. People do not like asset sales. We are going to see job cuts, and we are going to see poor services, and we are going to see higher prices as a result of Tim Nicholls and Campbell Newman's asset sales.
Anastasia Palaszczuk, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Melissa.